Okay, hi guys, good morning. So here we are. I guess there's a bimodal split in the class where half of you are back, refreshed, keen, bursting with intelligence and curiosity, and the other half is still in the mountains. But anyway, let's get on with Kripke. So this is Kripke's read on those very same passages in the investigations that we've just been looking at before the break. How many of you have looked at it, the Kripke? 1? 3? Okay. Okay, well, I will introduce it, but you really need to read the Kripke quickly, partly because it really goes back over all the Wittgenstein that we were doing in a somewhat different way, and you can start to see how radical what Wittgenstein's saying is from what Kripke's saying. I'll start to try and bring that out today, and I'll try and bring out more of the radical implications on Wednesday. We will have lecture on Wednesday, right? You guys weren't planning to boycott lecturing on Wednesday. There's some kind of action, but I think it doesn't involve lecturing. Is that right? Okay. Okay. Well, unless I don't see any signs of boycott here. Okay. Okay. So, okay, there are some very big numbers, right? Some numbers are really big, like a million or a million to the power of a million, right? There are lots of really big numbers. There are some numbers, I mean, you may have done a lot of adding in your time, right? I assume that each of you has added a lot of numbers. But there are some numbers that are so big that you have never added up numbers as big as that. You see what I mean? Yeah. So let's suppose that 57 is such a number. Right now, you may say, well, I've added numbers bigger than 57 before. But that's okay. If you don't like that, then make it 57 to the power 57. Or, you see what I mean? 57 to the power 57 to the power 57. Whatever, just make it really big. But we'll assume that you've never added numbers bigger than 57. Yep. Okay. So here's the question. You've often in the past used the addition sign, right? But here are two hypotheses as to what you meant in the past when you were using the addition sign. One is, well, you meant addition, right? When you used the cross, you meant to add the two numbers that the cross was in between. Is this getting too technical? Okay. So that's one hypothesis, that by the plus sign, by the cross, you meant addition, right? By this sign, you meant addition. The other hypothesis is that in the past, when you were using the cross, what you meant was not add. You did not mean plus by the cross. What you meant was quos. And the meaning of quos is that x quos y is the same as x plus y if x and y are both less than 57. Right? And otherwise, it's 5. If either x or y is greater than 57, then x quos y is 5. Stop me if this is going too fast. Are you with me so far? Okay, so these are two hypotheses as to what you meant by the plus sign in the past. One is you meant plus, you meant addition. The other is you meant quos. So suppose that in the past you have been using the plus sign to mean addition. Suppose that that's what you've been doing. And suppose that I, in the past, have always been using the plus sign to mean quaddition. Quaddition? Yeah? Is there any difference between us? But remember, for present purposes, 57 is a really big number, right? That's what I mean. Yeah, but your answer is right. We haven't added any sufficiently big numbers, if you see what I mean. Yeah. Your point is only if there were numbers such that we'd actually added them, used the plus sign with them, and come out with different answers. Would there be a difference? Right? But the hypothesis is that 57 is a sufficiently big number. Yeah, and if you don't like 57, all right, make it bigger, but okay, we'll make it big enough. And then there's no difference between us. There's no difference between us in the answers that we've given to any particular sums. Is there? Because we never got beyond 57, and up to 57, addition and quaddition are just the same thing. Yeah? So there can't be any differences in the answers that we've given to any particular sums, except by accident. I mean, if one of us made a mistake or something. And could there be would there be a difference in what was going through our head? I suppose that what you have going through your head is, well, I definitely mean addition when I use the cross, right? You think to yourself, I definitely mean addition. Well, I have that going through my head too. I say, well, yeah, I definitely mean addition. Yeah, but I'm a cross user nonetheless. So, yep.
Maybe you're going to get to this and I'm jumping the gun here. But isn't there at least one additional step for the plus user that there isn't for the plus user, and that they have to check that either of the numbers aren't bigger than 57, but the plus user doesn't have to check that?
They have to check that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, see, if I'm a natural quas user, right? Suppose I'm a born quas user. Yeah, I think that's really weird. Look, I see what you're doing. I say to you, once we get past 57 and you go a different way to me, I might say to you, look, I see what you're doing. You're quadding up to 57. And then when you get past 57, you're doing something else. You're not quadding anymore. Yeah, that's really weird. How come you've got to check? I never have to check whether I'm at 57. You always have to check when you're at 57. Yeah? Because, well, 57, you stop quadding and start doing something else. Yeah? But I just naturally quad. Yeah? So, yeah, but that's fair enough, your comment. Yep?
So then what about if we ask the question like, normally with addition, we'd like to say you add two positive numbers, you're always going to get an answer that is greater than or equal to the largest of the two numbers.
Yes, right. That's right.
So the person that naturally does quaddition would just either answer that was wrong.
Right.
Or they would know it was different.
Okay. Well, this moves us on into the kind of deeper theory of quaddition here, right? Because you're assuming that we both mean the same thing by the greater than, when we say greater than, yeah? But of course, I mean greater than, when I use that formula, the sum is always greater than the things being added, yeah? I mean up to 57, yeah? And after 57, something different happens. It would be a little bit technical to go deep into this, but I promise you that this ramifies. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
It still seems there's an extra step because quaddition has recourse to addition.
Quaddition has recourse to addition.
Right. You're using the plus as addition when you're saying equals x plus y.
Yeah. I could also define quas in terms of plus, though.
Right. But what
Yeah.
I mean is, then it seems like quaddition is merely the unification of two separate schematics.
Well, you can phrase it like that.
It may be natural for you to use one or the other, but that doesn't change the fact that there's that one or the other choice.
One or the other choice. Well, if I start out my arithmetic with quas as my primitive, yeah, quas is what I find it natural to use, and then I define addition in terms of quas. Yeah, then I'm going to say to you, you're using a two-part schematism here. You see what I mean? I mean, this is a good Berkeley response. You know, the question is, who's to say what's natural? Yeah, I mean, you go your way and I go mine. Yeah, I'd have to use a two-step thing to figure out what you're doing. You have to use a two-step thing to figure out what I'm doing. But that's okay. Yeah. I thought there was another hand. No? Okay, so there's no difference between you and me, and certainly not in the answers we've given to any particular sums. That's all right? And I see the force of it's natural to raise the things you guys are raising about the two-step definition, but I think that, as I said, I think that need not be the case here. And what's going through our minds as we do the calculations with a cross might be exactly the same. You say, well, I'm certainly adding here. I say to myself, well, I'm definitely adding here. Just the words running through our stream of consciousness can be exactly the same. I say this is a tough sum. You say this is a tough sum. I say I can do that in my head. You say I can do that in my head. You know, what goes through our minds is just the same, and our external behavior is exactly the same. So there's no difference between you and me. You meant plus, I meant quas, but there's no difference between us. That's okay? Plain as day? Okay, here's Kripke. Was there some past fact about me, what I meant by plus, that mandates what I should do now? Well, the thing is, you can't tell whether you meant plus or quas, because there's no difference between you and me, right? So what did you mean in the past when you were using the cross? Did you mean plus or did you mean quas? Put up your hand if the answer is plus. And if the answer is quas? Okay, but if you, I see a wary, a certain wariness here, but if you meant plus, what justification can you give for that answer? Can you point to the examples that you used, the particular answers you gave in particular cases? Is that going to help? Will that justify you in saying that you meant plus and not quas? Is what ran through your head different if you meant plus than if you meant quas? It's just the same. So there is nothing you can appeal to justify saying that in the past you meant plus rather than quas. You may feel this really strongly, but it's one of those things that is kind of dumbfounding. You can't think, you feel it very strongly, but you can't possibly justify it, right? There is nowhere left to look for a justification. Yep.
I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I'm still very confused about this. But if you were to imagine there's two societies, for instance.
Two societies.
Yeah, if you were to employ Putnam's example, you would say, well, when I meant addition, I meant whatever was within my region.
Whatever was, yeah, on Earth, as it were, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I meant addition, I meant something else that was not within my work. I couldn't
Right.
mean the latter.
Mm-hmm.
Because the latter is not within my region. I have no causal relation to it, no knowledge of it.
Yeah. Causal relations is good. I mean,
Can you then not argue that there is in fact a distinction of what I mean, or the reference of meaning that I assign to it? But
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, you know, when I mean addition, I don't mean anything else but whatever is within my regionality.
right.
Yeah.
It's very hard to see, though, why quas shouldn't be within your regionality. And none of you guys had any trouble understanding what I meant here. You see what I mean? It's almost trivial. Well, it's trivial. I mean, it's not very difficult to understand what it means. So it's perfectly within your scope to understand quas. Yeah. And it's also difficult to see quite where the causality fits in. There are two reasons for this. One is that, I mean, I will come on to this. We will discuss this a lot more. It's an important idea. Like the previous one, it's an important idea you're raising here. But there are two troubles with the causality here. One is, it's not quite obvious how that works for the arithmetical case anyhow, as people kept saying, yeah, when we were discussing causal theories. Because it's not like the number, addition is, it's all very well to say H2O causes you to use the word water. To say the operation of addition causes you to use the plus sign is it's not quite so obvious what's going on there. Yeah. But anyhow, what we saw, where we came to in discussing Drechka and Fodor and causality, is it's very hard to ground meaning entirely in terms of causation, because meaning is where you have right and wrong. And how can causation be what's generating right and wrong? Yeah, so there are a set of problems there. So yeah, I don't think you're confused. It's just this is quite complicated. There are a lot of bits and pieces here. Yeah.
Is there a reason why we can't give like a counterfactual or sort of dispositional explanation for the fact that we're using addition? Like why are we stuck to only using like previous instances in the actual world?
Very good.
By saying that we're using plus rather than plus, when we could say, well, if I had been called upon to add something greater than 57, then I would have given.
Then you would have said that. Yeah. That's a great suggestion. In fact, that's so good that the next section of the lecture is all about that. So let me put that one on hold. Right? Let me erase that comment just for a second, and then we'll block it back in. Yeah, is that okay?
I know what you're talking about.
Right. Okay. But the short answer to this question, is there a reason why we can't do that, is yes. And I'll try and persuade you of that in just a second. Yeah. But you see the, oh yeah, yeah.
So if you were a person who learned plus and quest.
Learn plus and quest, yeah.
And the thought running through your head, you were given two numbers bigger than
Yeah.
57, is, oh, I can do that in my head, just like you said earlier. And
Yeah.
one time you used plus and you got one answer, and the next time you thought, or you were using quest and you had the same thought, like you said earlier, oh, I can do that in my head, and you came up with a different answer.
Uh-huh.
Would that mean that there's no difference in your brain state because you had the same thought, which is I can do that in my head? I feel like there's some other thought that would dictate how this person can use both of them intuitively. That would be different.
Yeah. There's some other thought. Yes, fine. But if the idea is worth thinking about the case where someone uses both plus and quas naturally. Yeah. But the trouble is, it's not as if you can just look inside your mind and see whether you're using two words in just the same way. Yeah? I mean, that's the point of all these GRE style tests of here are two words with similar meanings. Explain the distinction. Yeah? That's not easy to do. Yeah? You can be using two words with different meanings, but have a lot of trouble even realizing that they're used differently. And Austin said, people say, I did it automatically, means the same thing as I did it inadvertently, right? Automatic and inadvertent sound kind of the same. Do you using them in just the same sense when you say automatic and when you say inadvertent? As if to say, I trod on your foot inadvertently is the same thing as to say, I trod on your foot automatically. Yeah, I mean, you need a particular case to bring out that they are the same. Oh, sorry, that they are different. And it would be like that with plus and quas. You can't just look inside your head and tell whether you're using them to mean the same thing. But when you get to a particular point, it's good. You're going to realize, oh yeah, I'm applying them in different ways. But I think you came in after this, that 57, we're assuming for present purposes, is a sufficiently large number that you've never added up that far. Yep. Okay. Yes? Right, because 57 is so big, yeah.
But can we use the particular circumstance that we're in to justify it?
The particular circumstance, well, what would that be? I mean, if we've got a particular calculation to do,
right,
like 5 cross 6, yeah, then 5 cross 6 is going to be 11, where it's quas or plus, right? So I've got the context in that it's 5, 6, and 11 we're talking about. But what else is there? What else might help?
well, I mean, 5 cross 6, in that case, the cross sign could either refer to addition or addition.
That's right. That's right. It's been set up so the answer is going to be the same. Yep.
But we know that beyond that, it's going to be addition. Rather than
Beyond that, it's going to be different, right? But we're considering a number that's so big you've never added up that far. And we're asking, is there anything about your past use of the sign, anything about the way you've been in the past, that makes it the case that you right now were using the cross to mean add rather than quad? And I say you can't find it. There is no such thing. Yeah? That's plain enough? Yeah, happy with that? Okay. So, at this point, if you can't, at this point in Kripke's argument, if you can't find the past fact about you, this is a quote from Kripke, was there some past fact about you, what I meant by plus, that mandates what I should do now? And he means that bombshell moment when you're asked to add 57 and 68. Yeah. And now, is there something that makes the difference between you having meant plus rather than quas? If you meant plus, then you should say 125. If you meant quas, you should say, what should you say if you meant quas? Very good, okay, just checking. Right. Okay, but there's nothing about the way you were using plus in the past, the cross in the past, that mandates you saying 125 rather than 5. Yeah? We haven't been able to find anything, nothing in the particular examples, nothing running through your head, nothing at all. But now, it's not just that you don't know whether you were using plus to mean plus or to mean quas. There's nothing that makes it the case that you did mean one or the other. There is no fact of the matter about whether you meant addition or quaddition. So there's no fact of the matter about whether the right answer to 68 plus 57 is 125 or 5. Right? There's just nothing there. So this is something that you could think tomorrow about yourself today, right? If you see what I mean. There's nothing about you now that makes it the case that you currently mean addition rather than quaddition. Yeah? Here's Kripke. Wittgenstein thinks that any construal that looks for something in my present mental state to differentiate between meaning addition or quaddition, or that will show in the future I should say 125 when finally asked about 68 plus 57, is a misconstrual. There's no such thing, right? There's nothing in your present mental state that differentiates between you meaning addition or quaddition, nothing in your present mental state that differentiates between 125 and 5 being the right answer for you to give to 68 plus 57. That would attribute to the ordinary man a notion of meaning that is refuted by skeptical argument. But this was a very simple example, right? The way this example got generated, you could generate endlessly many examples like that. You could generate endlessly many different quas, schmus. You see what I mean? You could generate lots and lots of different examples like that. And you could do that for any sign in the language. That means there's no such thing as anyone presently assigning a particular meaning to the cross. Or, for that matter, to any other sign in the language. Here's Kripke. Wittgenstein's main problem is that it appears he has shown all language and all concept formation to be impossible. You can't mean anything definite by what you're saying. And on that bombshell, maybe we should pack it up for today. Am I serious? Yeah. No, I'm not serious. I'm serious about this. I'm not serious about packing it up. But it's, sorry. Okay, you see the issue, right? Okay. Any comments on that? You see how serious the thing is? I mean, it's a perfectly real problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is supposed to be impossible and like so robust a sense that it's not just impossible to like say things about the real world that aren't context sensitive or anything, but is this supposed to apply even to like
everything?
Everything. So
Everything. Yeah.
Contextual-based meaning, rule-based, like
Contextual, rule-based, anything at all. Yeah. If you take I don't know what your favourite example might be of a contextual word. Here, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, you've used here to apply to a lot of different places in the past, yeah? But you haven't used here in connection with every place, right? So, I mean, in relation to wherever you are, yeah? So maybe what you meant by here was schmear, which means the place you're located at, unless you're located in, what's this place called? Mulford, unless you're located in Mulford, yeah? In which case it applies to the North Pole, yeah? Yeah, there's nothing in your past, the way you've used here in the past, the context you've used here in the past, or what was running through your head that is going to differentiate you meaning one rather than the other, yeah? I mean, we could do this like a parallel game. Give me an example. give me a word and I will generate a cross-style case for you. Yeah, yeah, yes?
Okay, what if you employ like a token, like a term that's token reflexive, like I, for example?
Well, here is token reflexive.
Yeah, but if you say I, you
Uh-huh.
have to, when I say I, for instance, if I were to say I 2 years ago, I would have to refer to myself. If I say it again today,
Yeah.
I still have to refer to myself.
Well, the way you were using I, remember, was you always use I to refer to yourself unless it's Monday, March the 31st in 2014. Then you use it to refer to me. Right? Maybe that's the way you were using it in the past. How can you show that that is not the way you were using it in the past? Not by the examples, not by what was going through your head, therefore not by anything. There is nothing to differentiate you meaning this rather than that by the word I in the past. Yes?
So all this shows is that the meanings that we assign to the signs in language is arbitrary, right? The assignment of meaning to the signs in the language
Is arbitrary.
is arbitrary. But it doesn't mean that communication is impossible, period.
Yes, it does. It means something much stronger. Actually, and I'm really glad you raised this. People often agree with it, say, oh, yes, I agree with Wittgenstein, without getting at all what he's saying, if you see what I mean. So meaning is arbitrary in the sense that a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. You know, you can call anything anything. Yeah, meaning's arbitrary in that sense. Everybody agrees with that, or most people agree with that. But Wittgenstein means something much stronger here. Saying meaning is arbitrary is to say I can assign a definite meaning to a sign. Yeah.
But then you're saying even that is not definite.
You're saying there's no such thing as assigning a definite meaning to a sign on this natural way of thinking about meaning. How could you do it? Not by what was going through your head, not by using the word in lots of particular cases, therefore not by anything at all. There's nothing that constitutes assigning a definite meaning to a sign. So it's much, much stronger than just saying that language is arbitrary. And if you can't assign a definite meaning to a sign, then language is impossible. And surely the only way language works is if you and I can communicate and assign the same definite meanings to signs. If we can't do that, then the whole thing is just broken down. Yeah, right at the back.
So I can kind of see how there wouldn't be anything in the mind that we can point at as understanding or meaning or something like
Good,
that.
yeah.
But would Wittgenstein or disagree with the possibility that there's something like neurological in the difference, like that's like causing us to use these things terms differently, or?
Okay, maybe your brain was different. Yeah, it's worth trying to think that through. Yeah, but one way to think of it is, what would it really show? Suppose we did scans of everyone in the class, and they came to me and they said, actually, you're different. You have been using the cross to mean plus the whole time. Yeah, sorry, the cross to mean quas the whole time. Yeah, you guys have all been using the cross to mean addition. Suppose they said, well, the brain scan shows that. The question then is, how could I be compelled by the brain scan to use the word in one way rather than another in the future? there's no, I don't keep faith with the results of a brain scan. I mean, the brain scan might just be showing that I've got a tendency to start getting it wrong when I add up beyond a certain point. And that really might be true. I really might have a tendency to get it wrong when I'm adding after a certain point. I mean, maybe some sums are just too hard for me.
Right, but
That's surely true anyway.
But I mean, if it's just a difference in behavior, you know, I just don't see it like. Wouldn't we eventually explain that behavior in terms of differences in the brain or something in natural terms?
This is getting very close to the thing about dispositions that I want to come on to next. And I actually want to get through the thing about dispositions and to say something about Kripke's own solution to this before the end. But one more, yeah, since you haven't raised one yet. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so if this is showing that like all concept formation isn't possible, what does it say about itself?
Yes, okay, Kripke says it's self-defeating, right? I mean, no one's suggesting, oh, well, no, that's the take-home message, yeah? This is surely, I mean, the thing is formulated in language. If it has meaning at all, then meaning must have been assigned to the signs using it. Okay, you haven't raised one yet. Oh, and Melissa, sorry, you.
Well, I was going to say, just as far as like scanning brains are concerned, if you scan your brain and your twin's brain on printers, then presumably they produce the same.
Yes.
But if we still have the intuition that like you need something different than your twin, like you need H2O and your twin needs XYZ, then it seems like brain scans wouldn't help the question
Yeah.
about what you need. Kind of like how Professor Campbell was saying, it'll just make a prediction that sometimes you'll go wrong. Like you'll go wrong when you see XYZ because you're call it water, but it's not what you meant.
But I mean, my twin on twin Earth would be like thinking out water by like its appearance, you know, whereas with this, it just seems like there's something, you know, more fundamental, like a difference.
I think if you think it through, the thing about brain scans is going to connect to the earlier question about dispositions. So let me breeze on through and come back. All right, yes. So, yeah, yeah. Yes, the distinction between truth and falsity has just gone out to the window at this point. Because, I mean, the point is, there's no right answer to the question, what's 57 plus 68? Yeah, it could be 5, it could be 125, it could be anything. Yeah?
Is Kripke saying this is a problem, or is
This is a quote from Kripke, yeah? And he's saying, at this stage in Wittgenstein's argument, it seems like we have lost the possibility of meaning.
And does Wittgenstein think this is a problem?
No, I mean, there is a solution. Yes, okay, which I keenly hope to get onto. So let's do the thing about dispositions, because I think the thing about Kripke talks quite a bit about this, and I think it's a pretty interesting line. I think the thing about brain scans and the explicit mention of dispositions, you can say, well, if I look back at how I was in the past, it's true that no one ever did ask me, what do you get if you add 68 plus 57? Right, we never got up as far as 57. But it was always true of me that if you had asked me, I'd have said 125. So I had those dispositions all along. And you might even say, and those dispositions were grounded in the way my brain was. Yeah, I'm not just making this up. Look, do the brain scan. That was grounded in the way my brain was. And the attraction of this is, you've got lots and lots of dispositions to act. Yeah, far more than you ever, far more dispositions to give answers to particular sums than you ever actually did give answers to sums. I didn't put that very well. There's a number of sums that you did actually give answers to in the past. Yeah? And then there's a number of sums that you would have given answers to if asked. And the second thing is pretty big, right? It's bigger than the original set of sums that you actually did give answers to, unless life has gone very badly for you, right? Okay, so that's good because it isn't an appeal to just that finite sample of cases you encountered already, and it doesn't appeal to something that was running through your mind. So you say, well, this is my brain state, if you like, and I've got all my dispositions. What is 1 plus 1? What's 68 plus 57? I had all these dispositions in the past. So now when you ask me, I'm just exercising this disposition that I had all along. But there are two problems with that. One is, it actually isn't enough that you have many dispositions. You have to have infinitely many dispositions, because there are infinitely many answers to questions of the form, what do you get if you add x plus y? And you have to have a disposition for each of them to give the right answer. But maybe that's not right about you anyway. I'm sure it's not right about me. I mean, if you give me a big enough number, you know, something that takes me 6 months to just read, then I'm not going to be able to give you the answer. Yeah? I mean, I'm just going to look at this and seize up. And anyway, as came up in the earlier discussion, it doesn't really matter what answers I'm disposed to give, because the answers I'm disposed to give might just be natural mistakes. So the general point is, it might go all right. What do you get if you add 1 plus 1? What's 68 plus 57? And then you ask me some really big number, and I just have a fit, right? You know, I just, my lips bubble. I lie on the floor. You know, I just seize up. Yeah, surely, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's consistent, we'd ordinarily say, with me really having meant plus the whole time, having meant addition. I just pack up when you give me a particularly hard one. So my dispositions can't be what's dictating what the right answer is. What we want to say is, given the meaning you currently assign to plus, there are right answers to all of these questions. And it doesn't matter if, in fact, I'd get it wrong in lots of cases. Maybe I'm just no good with sevens. You know, maybe whenever I try and do an ad with 7 in it, I just have unhappy associations with 7 and I can never think straight. You know, that can happen. But there are still right answers to the questions. And obviously this connects to this old friend, because this thing running through your head, that was meant to be what would dictate the right answer in all these questions. And the whole point was that just drops out. So there are two problems about rule following here. One is, when you've got a term, there are infinitely many possible applications of it. And those infinitely many possible applications can all be right or wrong. Yeah? And the trouble is to catch both of these things together. And dispositions don't do that, because you don't have infinitely many dispositions, and that can't, what your dispositions are doesn't dictate what's right or wrong anyhow. Okay. So if I put that right, that should sweep away the appeal to brain scans, because brain scans only come in as ground. I mean this provocatively, right? But brain scans only come in as grounding of dispositions to give answers, and the dispositions themselves won't do it. Okay. So we're happy with Wittgenstein's conclusion? No. Okay. Okay. Well, let's look at the solution. The solution, you might think the solution's worse than the problem, but the solution is pretty radical, as Kripke interprets Wittgenstein anyhow. Wittgenstein agrees with the skeptic, right? And I actually think that the attack on this kind of idea here of the x plus 1 is very, very powerful. I mean, I hope that that's clear. It's a very powerful attack, this. And Wittgenstein rolls with the flow here. He agrees with the skeptic that there isn't any fact of the matter as to whether you mean plus or quas. You can't find anything in the way you were in the past that would ground you in saying, justify you in saying, I really meant plus rather than quas. So the idea is, give up trying to find any fact about me in virtue of which I mean plus rather than quas, and then must go on in a certain way. Forget the idea of the thought in the head, meaning this rather than that. That doesn't exist. All we have to do is look at what actually goes on. Look at the empirical facts. Look at how people actually behave when you're considering these questions in real life. I mean, suppose you've got a child, or suppose you've got a storekeeper that's who wants to hire someone to work the cash till, right? That's the task, work the cash till. Well, what do? You really, it really practically matters here. Do they know what add means? Yeah? I just give this as a case where it's really practically important. Can this person do basic arithmetic? Have they really got it to do basic arithmetic? So you want to know, is this individual grasping the cross as meaning addition? And what do we make of it? If the individual follows the rule, if you understand the cross as meaning plus, then you've got to say 125 when you're asked to add 68 and 57. So we're not going to ask for the facts that make it true. There are no facts that make it true. We're just going to ask, what does the storekeeper do? How does the storekeeper proceed in these situations? Or if it's a school teacher saying about a 6-year-old, have they really got basic arithmetic? What do they do? Well, what Kripke calls a straight solution is one that would say, well, actually, it is your brain state. It's actually neural activity in the frontal cortex or something like that. That's what really constitutes the thing. Or maybe it's a kind of magnetic field that people radiate, when they really grasp the plus sign. Something you overlooked. Well, the idea is we're not going to do that. We're not going to assume there are any hidden facts here. That's just a myth. There are no hidden facts here. We do this the whole time, check each other's competence with language, whether we're understanding words in the same way and so on. The skeptical solution, so according to Kripke, Wittgenstein is rejecting a straight solution and going for a skeptical solution. And on the skeptical solution, you can't just take an individual considered intrinsically in themselves, look at the way they are, and say, independent of any community, they mean something by what they say. That makes no sense. All that happens is, if you're the teacher looking at a child, or if you're the storekeeper looking at the person you're going to hire, what you do is you get them to work through some examples. You get them to say, well, does it go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? And you give me the next few, and they go 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Or you get them to do some basic adds. You get them to give change for a $20 bill. You get them to do some basic calculations. If they don't get those examples right, then we say, they don't understand it. They don't get it. Right? That's all that happens. They do some examples, and we say, you don't get it. You don't pass the test. You don't get the job. You don't get to do this. On the other hand, if you do pass enough tests, if you do enough calculations right, and there's only going to be a small finite sample here, but if you do enough of them right, then we'll say, hey, you got it. You passed the test. You know what adding is. Yeah, you did those sums all right. You get the red tick, you get the gold star, that's it. You're in. You get the job. You got enough particular examples right that I will take it that you can now work the cash till. You can now go on and deal with arithmetic involving money just fine because you got enough right. So if an individual passes enough tests, the community accepts him as a rule follower, thus enabling him to engage in certain types of interactions with them that depend on their reliance on his responses. Right? So we will trust you in, let you work the cash till. Now, why does this work? Well, there is no explanation of why this works. It just does work. The success of these practices depends on the brute empirical fact that we just do keep on agreeing with one another. If there are rows over whether you got the right change, then we all agree in how you sort that out. We come to the same answers. Yeah?
Why do we have to say at the end of our finite test either, yeah, you've got it, or no, you don't got it? I feel like if I were an employer hiring somebody, at the end of my test I would say, oh, you probably get it, but I'll still spot but like,
Right.
I think it works because the longer we make our tests, the probability that we're doing something different goes down. Because we
Yeah,
have
the key thing, the only point where I disagree with you is when you say probability. Probability suggests there's a definite fact of the matter. Do they mean this? Do they understand that? And we're just sampling to get some fix on it. Yeah. The whole point is there is no such further fact of the matter. There are only the particular cases. And the thing is, any employer might say, I wouldn't give you the job if I didn't know you could count. I wouldn't give you a qualification. I wouldn't give you a school leaving qualification if I didn't know you could count. Yeah. We take it that we know about each other what they mean by the cross. That, and all that comes to is that we passed enough tests. I mean, you can always do further sampling. And that's the point, really. It's only a brute empirical fact that we keep on agreeing with one another. There is no underlying reality that we're trying to probe here and see what's going on there. There's just a brute fact that if you give enough right answers in particular cases, then we're going to say, you're in. If you don't give enough right answers, we'll say you're not in. And that's the way it works.
So then on the day when you get a number that you haven't done before and you add it differently than I do,
Yeah.
and you check it a million times and you weren't just freaking out because the numbers were too big, has something changed with you? Like, are you now all of a sudden...
That's what we'd say. We would say he's gone right off the rails.
How do I know that something changed with you and not with me?
There is no, it's not that there is a hidden further fact here. You have to get the further fact out of your head. Yeah? There is no further fact that has changed. It's just that you would say he's no longer using the sign in the same way as the rest of us. Yeah, that's all. I'm just reporting. I'm just reporting the way we talk here. That's what we'd say. Campbell's gone off the rails. Poor old boy. Yeah. All that philosophy's done him in. Yeah, that's what you'd say if someone just went off the rails in their use of numbers and they'd been fine up to that point. And that's all that there is to report. There's just what I do in the particular cases and the community reaction to it, and that's it. That's the whole thing about understanding and meaning. Yep.
I'm just not entirely sure how this is different from what they
How it's different from what Wittgenstein would say. No, it's meant to, that's right. It's meant to be an interpretation of what Wittgenstein would say. Yeah, this is, yeah, good, yeah, yeah. No, Kripke means this as, this is his explanation of what Wittgenstein says. And although it's certainly possible to quarrel with it, it's certainly in the ballpark of what Wittgenstein is saying. It's not very far away from what Wittgenstein is saying, it seems to me, yeah. So, just a quick analogy that might mean, it may depend a bit on what other classes you've done in philosophy, but people sometimes have this thing about responsibility, you know, what, or ethics generally. What's the right thing to do? What's what ought I to do? What's the best life for me? Who's responsible for something bad having happened? This doesn't seem to be part of physics, right? They talk about responsibility. Yeah? But we live in a physical world, so where are the rights? Where is the responsibility? And people say, well, there aren't really any moral facts. There is only the human reaction to particular situations. That's what generates the talk about responsibility. Describe that, the way humans react to particular physical situations. There's no more to responsibility or rights than that. Yep.
What's the real import of this picture? I mean, for like the practice or for the philosophy of ethics, I mean, couldn't we just talk about moral facts with like the qualification the whole time that we're only really talking about when it's right to say this and
Yeah.
that? Does that make sense?
That's right, it does make sense. You can bring, I think that's right, we'll go back over this on Wednesday actually, but you can bring back in the talk about facts at a much later stage, but without the idea that there's anything, you're describing anything in the furniture of the world about this. I mean, once you've got the picture, there's no such thing as responsibility in the world out there, independent of us. There are only our reactions. You can still say, well, it's true that he's completely irresponsible, or whatever, yeah. You can do that talk, but there's something empty about it. It's not really adding anything to. I mean, if I react very strongly to what you say, take something like being funny, where it's, I think, even clearer, right? There's no more to things being funny than how we react to them, yeah? But I can say, well, in fact, that was really funny. Or it's true that that was very funny, but you still shouldn't have laughed, or, you know, whatever, yeah? I actually talked to someone who does stand-up comedy over the winter break, and he told me that comedians are all realists about humor. They all discuss it very seriously, right? You know, what's funny and what isn't, and they take it for granted that there is such a thing. But you can do that talk, even for stuff where there manifestly isn't anything out there, yeah? So with the stuff about meaning, there manifestly isn't anything out there over and above our particular reactions in particular cases. So what we've done is we're shifting from looking at the facts to find morality, or looking at the facts to find meaning, and we're just looking now at the way we use statements about responsibility. In what context will we say he's responsible for that? In what context will we say she has understood the plus sign? So we're shifting from looking for facts out there that our statements are reporting to just looking at what causes us, what makes us say he understands. So we haven't been able to find facts that can make it true that you mean plus by the cross, or if so the past uses of the cross, what's it running through your mind, the dispositions, nothing there does it. I mean, you might add in mere causal chains, mere causal connections. They don't do it either. Yeah? Nothing there makes it true that this is what you mean, or that this is what you should say. So all we can do is describe how we talk, describe when in practice we're going to say that you've got it, you're one of us, you're in, or describe when in what answer in particular cases we're going to say is the right one, and that's all. Okay, so we'll look further at the implications of this picture on Wednesday. Great discussion, thank you guys, great questions. Yeah.